Elon Musk might be one step closer to bringing Starlink to India. So India's communications minister just made a big announcement at the Indian Mobile Congress 2024. He confirmed that satellite spectrums in India will be administratively allocated, not auctioned like they are for mobile networks. Now, these spectrums will come at a hefty cost, but we're not quite sure what that cost is going to be, and ultimately it's going to be up to the TRAI, the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, to figure that out. And in fact, the TRAI is actually already starting to work on this with a consultation paper, but here's the twist. Jio is not happy about this news. They've criticized TRAI's paper, claiming it doesn't address the issue of a level playing field between telecommunication and satellite companies. And the reason why they're making this claim is that satellite spectrum is a limited resource, so whoever gains access to this spectrum can dominate the satellite internet market in India. Now, Jio and Airtel were both pushing for the satellite spectrum to be auctioned, just like it was with the mobile internet spectrum, because they believe, or at least this is what they're saying, this will create a fair competition between satellite and telecommunications companies. But Elon Musk, who's obviously on the other side of this equation, and other satellite operators for that matter, well, they're not on board with this. Elon believes that the satellite spectrum shouldn't be auctioned because it's designated as a shared spectrum for satellites by the ITU, that's the International Telecommunication Union. And it looks like India's communication minister agrees with him. He said that globally, satellite spectrum is administratively allocated, and India is just following that practice. So if that's the case, then why is Jio still pushing for auction? Well, one opinion here is that this auction system gives Jio an advantage over Starlink. How? Well, Mukesh Ambani is the richest man in the country, and India is Reliance's core market, so Reliance wouldn't be afraid to go all in and outbid its competitors and lock down control over valuable satellite spectrum. And this, of course, would help them to maintain their dominant position by making it way more expensive for other players like Starlink to enter the market. But for Starlink, auctions are, of course, a big problem. They can drive up costs, forcing Starlink to spend a lot just to secure the spectrum. And yes, Elon Musk is the richest person in the world, but unlike with Jio, India isn't his core market. Starlink operates globally, and so getting involved in costly bidding wars in every country would seriously limit their ability to offer satellite internet to India and other countries as well. But anyways, all of this is really just commentary at this point. It seems like the decision has been made to go in this one direction, but leave a comment down below and let me know what you would have preferred. Auctions, the way that Airtel and Jio are gunning for, or administrative allocation, the way that Starlink and other companies that would want to enter the Indian market would prefer. All right, next up in the news, Ola Electric is in more trouble, and this time it could end up losing them the subsidies that they've been getting under the PM eDrive scheme, which is replacing Fame 2. So earlier this month, Bhavish launched Boss. That's the biggest Ola season sale, dropping the price of their S1X scooter from 74,999 rupees down to just 49,999 rupees. And while this deal was great for Ola Electric customers, at least in the short term, it wasn't great for the company overall because apparently the Automotive Research Association of India, ARAI, wasn't too happy about this. They reached out to Ola Electric saying the company hadn't notified them about this sudden price cut, but Ola Electric had an explanation. They clarified that this wasn't a permanent price cut, just a 25,000 rupee discount for a limited time on certain products for a few customers. And so far, Ola Electric hasn't heard back, apparently from the ARAI, that's what they're saying at least, after submitting their clarification. But here's the thing, if the ARAI doesn't find Ola Electric's explanation satisfactory, then they could end up in legal trouble, and it could end up causing them to lose these subsidies that they've been getting under the PM eDrive scheme. So under the scheme, electric vehicle companies are eligible for a 5,000 rupee subsidy per kilowatt hour battery capacity. And with a battery capacity of 2 kilowatt hours, Ola Electric's S1X is currently availing 10,000 rupees in subsidy per vehicle. And while the ARAI wasn't too happy about the way that this sale was conducted, it seems like, at least in some sense, it's working for Ola Electric. Their market share has climbed somewhat. In September, they held 27% of the market, and now by mid of October, their market share has jumped to 34%, but their problems with servicing still continue. Last week, they faced serious backlash for poor after-sales service and rising customer complaints, and in response, Ola Electric has finally brought in EY India, Ernst & Young, to help fix things. According to a report by the Economic Times, EY will advise Ola Electric on handling the immediate crisis and also help them to improve their systems for managing spare parts and on-ground service centers, especially in places where they sell a lot but don't have proper service. And it has taken a while for Ola Electric Electric to finally start addressing these issues, and that's been a super long time for people to wait, people who purchase these vehicles and haven't been able to get them repaired. They're malfunctioning, it's frustrating for people, but it seems like, at least for the time being, Ola Electric is finally paying attention. They've realized that this is something they can't put off any longer, but the big question is, will this be enough for Ola Electric to make a real comeback? All right, next up in the news, just a quick update while we're still talking about EVs here. Raptee HV has launched India's first high-voltage electric motorcycle, the T30, and it's priced at 2.39 lakh rupees, which is pretty expensive, but what makes this bike special? Well, according to Raptee, the T30 uses technology that's typically found in electric cars, which is probably why you can charge it at any standard CCS2 car charging station across the country. But now let's talk specs. So the T30 can hit a top speed of 135 kilometers per hour. It has real-world range of 150 kilometers per charge, and charging from 20 to 80% takes about 60 minutes at home, but if you're using a car charging station, that time drops to just 36 minutes. As for availability, Raptee plans to start selling their T30s in January of 2025, kicking things off in Chennai and Bengaluru, and from there they'll expand to other cities depending on market demand. All right, next up in the news, Licious, the popular online meat brand, has hit a bit of a rough patch. Their revenue has dropped by 8% from 748 crore rupees in FY23 to 685 crore rupees in FY24, and according to the company, part of this decline came from shutting down their online distribution channels like Dunzo and Swiggy's meat store, but that's not all, because their offline sales also fell from 76 crore rupees in FY23 down to just 36 crore rupees in FY24 as they shifted their focus to their own channels instead of relying on modern trade and local stores. But there is some good news, a silver lining for Licious here. They managed to cut their losses by 44% from 524 crore rupees in FY23 to 293 crore rupees in FY24. And Licious has always focused on their online market where 85% of their sales come from, but they've now realized that they really do need to go offline if they want to grow. And that's why they've just acquired My Chicken and More, an online meat retailer, in a deal estimated to be worth between 150 and 200 crore rupees. And with this acquisition, Licious will gain access to 23 retail stores in Bengaluru and 110 crore rupees in revenue that they generated in FY23. However, there's also a new competitor in town, Zepto. Even though it took Licious 9 years to build a nearly 700 crore rupee revenue business, Zepto's own meat brand, Relish, which launched just last year, has already hit 300 crore rupees in annual revenue run rate thanks to their quick commerce strategy. And Zepto is aiming to hit 500 crore rupees ARR by the end of this year. So the big question here is, can Licious omni-channel strategy keep them ahead, or has Zepto figured out the winning formula for online meat delivery with their quick commerce model? All right, next up in the news, we haven't heard much about Navi over the last couple of months, but Sachin Bansal's company here, Navi, has surpassed Axis Bank to become the 5th largest UPI app in the country in terms of the number of transactions for the month of September. Navi recorded 120.41 million transactions, putting it just behind Cred, which hit 140 million. But here's where things get interesting, because Navi's growth has been nothing short of phenomenal. They launched their UPI service back in August of 2023, and by January of 2024, they were handling fewer than 1 million transactions, but now, just 10 months later, that number has 12x to over 120 million. But why is Navi so laser focused on UPI transactions? Well, the answer lies in credit on UPI. In September of 2023, the NPCI launched credit on UPI, and you can think of it kind of like a credit card within the UPI system. Users can make payments using borrowed money and repay it later, and it's the same concept as credit cards, but fully integrated into UPI, making it super convenient. Now, credit comes from banks, fintech platforms, or financial institutions offering credit lines, and in August of 2024, Sachin Bansal shared a thread on X about why he thinks credit on UPI could be a game changer for small businesses that need instant credit. And according to him, it could open up lending opportunities for banks and fintechs to reach over 30 crore customers and businesses in India. There's more, because MSMEs contribute to about 30% of India's GDP, but often face a credit shortfall of $250 to $300 billion. And so credit on UPI, according to Bansal, could help to bridge that gap, which is why in the same month, Navi partnered with Karnataka Bank and launched credit on UPI for its customers, aiming to capture this massive opportunity. All right, next up in the news, IndiGo has received SEBI's approval to launch their VC fund, IndiGo Ventures. And with this fund, IndiGo is looking to invest in startups in the aviation sector, specifically those seeking pre-Series A, Series A, and Series B funding. Now, while their main focus is going to be on technology startups within aviation, IndiGo Ventures will also plan on investing in consumer startups that enhance the overall passenger journey. So this could be areas like travel, lifestyle, hospitality, and transportation, basically anything that touches the customer experience while they're flying. IndiGo Ventures has already started engaging with founders and startups, but they're not rushing things. They're planning to actually start investing by the end of FY25. All right, now let's move into the funding news segment for today's video. This week, Indian startups raised a total of $166 million, which is higher than last week, but still below the trend line for the third consecutive week. But now let's look at some of the companies that have raised funds this week. The first one I want to talk about here is Mumbai-based online beauty and fashion retailer Purple. So they've raised an additional $60 million in their Series F round, finally closing the round with a total of $180 million in the bank. After that, we have Bengaluru-based online jewelry brand Jiva, which sells gold and silver jewelry along with lab-grown diamonds, and they've raised $30.33 million in their Series B round. Following this, we have Bengaluru-based elder care startup Primus Senior Living, and they're building luxury communities for seniors where they have access to facilities like healthcare support, housekeeping, meal services, security, and transportation, pretty much everything that they would need to make their lives comfortable, and they've raised $20 million in their seed round. Next, we have Bengaluru-based semiconductor startup Agnit Semiconductors. This company specializes in gallium nitride-based semiconductors, which are actually more efficient and faster than traditional silicon-based semiconductors, and they can operate at higher temperatures too. So these guys have raised $3.5 million in their seed round. After that, we have a Hyderabad-based robotics startup that's making advanced robotic arms that can be used to move and grip just like human arms to do complex tasks like assembling electronic products, and they've raised $3 million in their seed round. And then finally, we have Ahmedabad-based Optimized Electrotech, which is developing advanced surveillance systems like high-resolution sensors and cameras, which can detect detailed images even in low-light conditions. And they've raised a $2.97 million grant from the government of India after being one of the startups to win the Aditi IDEX DIO challenge. All right, that is all the startup news that I have for you guys this week. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.